Divorce. The end of a chapter, the division of a life once shared. It's often messy, arguments over the house, the car, the dog, hammered out by lawyers, signed in sterile offices. It's all about the fine print. Every word matters. But what if, hidden between the lines, there was a secret, a deadly secret, written in plain sight? This is a story about a divorce agreement, one that looked ordinary, but wasn't. Buried deep was a single, peculiar line, a consulting fee. But this wasn't for consulting as you or I know it. It was a payment for something far more sinister, a service that would end a life, not just a marriage. The very documents meant to bring a peaceful end were twisted to orchestrate something final. This story begins with a marriage that had run its course. But the ending, no one could have predicted. It's a warning. Always read the fine print, because you never know what you might find. The case unraveled thanks to sharp-eyed investigators who sensed something was wrong. They looked at that strange clause and asked, what was this payment for? Who was the consultant? Why was it in a divorce settlement? The answers led them down a rabbit hole of deceit and cold-blooded planning. A plan that was almost perfect. Almost. It was all there, hidden in the ink, waiting for someone to notice. And someone did. The fine print became the key to exposing a chilling plot. Sometimes, the smallest details hold the darkest secrets. And in this case, the fine print was a matter of life and death. Sandra Blake seemed to have it all. A comfortable home, 2 kids, a stable husband, David. From the outside, they were the picture of the American dream. But behind closed doors, resentment and desperation grew. The marriage, once joyful, had soured. Laughter faded, replaced by silence. David thrived on routine. Sandra felt trapped, yearning for something more. The spark was gone, replaced by a widening chasm. They became strangers sharing a mortgage, arguments growing, distance deepening. The dream had become a cage. Divorce seemed like Sandra's only escape, but she feared David would fight her every step. She saw a future of endless legal battles, tied to him for years. The thought was suffocating. She needed a clean break, a definitive end. As the marriage crumbled, a dark idea took root. Sandra didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to be free, completely. The kind of freedom a court couldn't grant. What started as a whisper of frustration became a plan. A meticulous, calculated plan she believed would solve everything. She was ready to do whatever it took. The line between desperation and danger blurred. Sandra's longing for freedom would soon set a deadly plot in motion. And the world would see just how far she was willing to go. Sometimes, the perfect life hides the darkest secrets. And sometimes, the desire for freedom becomes a motive for murder. For Sandra, the end of her marriage was just the beginning. The plan was in motion. When Sandra filed for divorce, everything seemed routine. Lawyers, negotiations, paperwork. Assets were divided, custody discussed, the usual legal dance. The agreement was thick, filled with dense legal language. Sandra's lawyer worked for her best interests, unaware of her true intentions. David's lawyer did the same. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But deep in the paperwork, on page 37, was a peculiar entry. A one-time consulting payment of $50,000 to a third-party company Sandra designated. On the surface, it could have been anything. A fee for a financial advisor, a business debt. But it was vague. Intentionally so. This clause was Sandra's masterpiece. her hidden message, disguised as a boring transaction. She wove it into the legal fabric, counting on no one looking too closely. Just one line among thousands, a drop of poison in a sea of ink. She believed it was the perfect cover, a way to fund her dark desires using the legal system meant to protect her husband. The agreement was finalized, signatures added, the trap was set. Sandra's plan was now hidden in plain sight. The paperwork was her weapon, and the countdown had begun. Sometimes the most dangerous secrets are buried in the most ordinary places, and this secret was about to be discovered. The divorce was finalized, but the story was just beginning. Months later, a financial analyst in the district attorney's office noticed something odd during a routine audit. The $50,000 consulting fee stood out, disproportionate for a moderately valued estate. Why was the nature of the consulting so vague? Who was the mysterious third-party company? Most settlements detail every obligation. This one was strangely, almost deliberately, vague. The analyst flagged the document for his supervisor. The file landed on a seasoned investigator's desk. He ran a business search for the company named in the agreement. Nothing. No registration, no website, no phone number. It was a ghost. A shell corporation created for one purpose, to receive a single payment. This was the first major red flag. A non-existent company receiving a substantial payment as part of a divorce decree? It screamed intentional deception. But what was it covering up? At this point there was no crime, no victim, just a strange line in a legal document. But the investigator knew. Sometimes, the most elaborate crimes begin with the smallest details. The game was afoot. The hunt for the truth had begun, and the fine print was about to unravel a deadly plot. Sometimes, a single line can change everything. And this line was about to expose a conspiracy. The investigation was underway. The investigator now had a puzzle. A $50,000 payment to a phantom company, hidden in a divorce settlement. Was it money laundering, hiding assets, or something darker? He started to think outside the box. What kind of service would someone pay for secretly, using their own divorce as a smokescreen? In the criminal underworld, language is twisted. Consulting could be a code word. The investigator formed a chilling hypothesis. The payment was for a hit. A murder-for-hire plot disguised as a legal transaction. Sandra would be free of her husband, and the court would compel him to pay for his own demise. It was cold, calculated, and deeply disturbing. But a theory isn't evidence. He needed to connect the consulting fee to an actual plot. He needed to find the consultant. The divorce agreement was the blueprint. Now he had to find the real-world connections. The investigation was about to get serious. The line between legal and lethal had been crossed, and the truth was about to come to light. The next step, follow the money, and find the killer. Guided by the murder-for-hire theory, police dug into Sandra Blake's life. Who was the consultant? They pulled her phone records and financial statements, searching for unusual contacts or payments. Surveillance was set up. David was placed under protection. Sandra was monitored. One afternoon, Sandra met a man at a coffee shop, Jerry, the fixer Coleman, a criminal with a record for assault and extortion. He fit the profile of a hired gun. The meeting was brief, but enough. Investigators ran a background check. Jerry was looking to move into contract work. Sandra was the client. Jerry was the consultant. The next step, link the payment to Jerry. A warrant for his bank records revealed a transfer, $50,000 from Sandra's shell company to Jerry's account, days after the divorce was finalized. It was the smoking gun. The money trail was clear. The pieces were falling into place. The plot was exposed. The evidence formed an undeniable chain. The bizarre clause ordered David to pay $50,000 to Sandra's shell company. The money then went straight to Jerry Coleman, a known criminal. Surveillance footage showed Sandra meeting Jerry. Phone records confirmed their contact. Sandra was the architect. Jerry was the instrument. Investigators brought Jerry in. Faced with evidence, he confessed. Sandra had hired him to murder David, disguising the payment as consulting. The plan: make it look like a robbery gone wrong. The divorce agreement was Sandra's twisted way to ensure payment. For investigators, it was a stunning confirmation. Sandra had weaponized her own divorce. The legal system became her shield and her undoing. All the pieces were in place. It was time to arrest the architect. Police arrived at Sandra Blake's home. She was blindsided. Her plan, she thought, was foolproof, but the evidence was overwhelming. In the interrogation room, Sandra's story crumbled. She claimed the payment was for security consulting, but couldn't explain the sham company or Jerry's criminal record. The trial was a media sensation, a murder for hire by divorce decree. The prosecution laid out the case, the clause, the shell company, the money trail, Jerry's testimony. The jury was horrified. Sandra was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Her life of comfort exchanged for a prison cell. Her desire for freedom led to ultimate confinement. The perfect life was shattered, revealing the darkness beneath. Justice was served. The story of Sandra Blake is disturbing not just for the crime, but for its creativity. She twisted a mundane divorce settlement into a weapon, using the law to orchestrate violence. It's a chilling reminder: the most dangerous threats can come from a pen, a signature, a single line. This case is a cautionary tale. Read the fine print. Who would imagine a consulting fee could be a death sentence in disguise? Sandra banked on paperwork being boring, on details being overlooked. Evil can be clever, sophisticated, and hide in plain sight. The ink on that document was nearly as deadly as any weapon. Next time you're told to just sign here, remember this story. Check the details. Ask the questions. The devil is in the details, and sometimes those details are a matter of life and death. Always read the fine print.